Man, we really should have checked this before we started. My head is even shinier in this spot. Oh, hi, everybody. Oh, hi. I know it's you, Sky Dog. Punk. Wow. I am blinding.
Do you want to switch seats?
I think it'll be just as bad over there, to be
I don't
honest.
think so. It's shady.
Well, we can try real quick if you want.
Let's try that.
All right, shuffle. Hang on, boys.
Chinese fire drill.
No. I promise there's a method to our madness. Unless you guys really want. Oh no, it's just as bad here. It's okay. You guys can see your
Or
future
you hide
now.
the trash.
Don't do witchcraft. Oh no, my bald head is going to make people stray. Good to have you all here. Say hi, wife.
Hi.
So distracted, she's sharing links.
I'm being proper.
We're here. The last lesson of the semester. I could have sworn I had another lesson between here and the last one, but whoops. Suddenly we're here. I hope you guys have been enjoying the series. And yes, I am planning on writing a second semester, a part 2 to this semester. There's the man. There's the legend, the Skydog man. So sounds like one of those lame fantasy RPGs attempt at a sky entity. Skydog man. Or what? He Dogman Sky. Running wolf dog poo poo head.
Run wolf dog sky.
You guys ever thought about Native American names and just took a step back and realized that they're just toddlers, just toddler names, but they sound interesting to us because they're in a different language. And they say it in a ooh, it's like he go running fast with deer. That's a sentence, not a name, home slice.
It's titles of anime books.
In actual high societies, they come up with a name with meaning. They don't just say, here's the meaning, but no name. They skip the whole part of coming up with a name.
That tree is so distracting.
This is so pretty. We finally have a tree, guys. Sky Dog Man thing. Me, shark bait. Hoo-ha. Exactly. Oh, man. So it's been a long semester. I think what we'll do is at least 1 or 2 more lessons where I just either go over random topics that aren't connected to each other or find some current events and apply some biblical stuff on it. Maybe in true Sunday school fashion, we'll watch a movie and I'll rip it apart for all its Satanism. Ooh, that might be a fun segue to do.
Instead of doing it as a continual thing.
Every now and then. You know what? I like that.
That's a good idea. After in between semesters.
And this is supposed to be a Sunday school curriculum, and you should have days for, younger guys or whatever, or if they're even younger, young boys aren't constantly sitting there doing lessons because they get bored of that. I had to get used to the fact that when we were teaching mostly girls, that girls want to do projects and they like the projects. They don't think they're corny and weird. That was a culture shock for me. When I was young, man, and the stupid Sunday school teachers were like, now we're going to cut out this figurine of Jesus and put him in the manger. I was so pissed every time. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Is this why you come up with something creative?
Respect my mind and give you some learning. But no, women actually want to do that. Yeah, teenage girls want it.
This is when you take a step up. Instead of just paper and stuff, multimedia.
That's what my wife did. She had to make these
multimedia
for what was this? Oh yeah, this was our Easter stuff for the girlies, the Korean girls in our class.
A plaque of wood, string, hot glue gun.
Mm-hmm. This is why it's wife, because they can help translate a little bit between you and teenage girls if you're dealing with them for one reason or another.
You're working with paper all the time.
And you might think, oh, I only have boys and sons. They're going to get married at some point. You're going to have to deal with their female love interests. Why can't they say wives? What female love interest? What is this? A gay romance model? or like George Lucas trying to imply things in his that there needs to be a love interest. There always has to be a love. If you ever hear George Lucas talking about what has to be in a Star Wars film, it's like there needs to be a love interest. Don't look
It
at the
doesn't
fact
matter if it's their brother
or
sister.
sister or 10 freaking years younger and they met in middle school and the other one's already an adult. That's not creepy at all. I mean, at the very least, you could have them not meet till they're both 30 and 40. That helps a little bit. Or at least 20 and 30. I had friends whose parents were like that, but they didn't know each other when they were like middle school and college age.
That was my parents.
Awkward.
10 years difference, 9 years difference. It's always weird.
Yes. Ooh.
No, right. They were always scratchy.
Yeah. It's funny. Part of the reason why the, I know I'm tangenting hard. We'll get into the lesson, but like I said, sometimes in semesters and stuff, you got to have a few lessons where you're just chilling out and enjoying each other's company and then bring up the important stuff. Part of the reason, a lot of people forget that the prequels are still pretty bad. They have great world building, but they're pretty bad story-wise. Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader way too quickly, and it makes no damn sense. Okay. 1 minute, he's this guy crusading and having a would never kill a child for any reason. Next thing you know, he's slaughtering like 10-year-olds that he probably helped train every now and then with no remorse or hesitation or anything. Not that the Jedi are any better. Keep in mind, right? Yoda is suddenly slaughtering troopers left, right, and center.
Yoda's the true psychopath.
Yeah, those troopers, right? Every single clone trooper is at most 9 years old. Like the oldest stormtroopers were like 10, because that's how long the Clone Wars went. And remember, they were grown. They're rapidly if you remember in Clone Wars 2, right? The Attack of the Clones. They talked about when they find the clones that they were rapidly enhanced so that they grow faster. They're like 3 years old in that movie. 3 or 5 years old in that movie. And then the Clone Wars goes on for like another 3 or 4 or 5 years. I forget how long. And so the oldest clones are like 10. And Yoda just cuts off their heads like it's nothing. What an asshole. What an absolute asshole. Moreover, right, if we add in they also talked about it in the Clone Wars 2. They were basically conditioned to always follow orders no matter what. Something that the Jedi took advantage of without hesitation, I might add. And then when that's used against them, no hesitation to just cut their heads off. And then they added a show, right? Because they felt like that was too much, like that's too weird that they just changed. Like, personally, no. If you've ever dealt with like the MK Ultra stuff, it's essentially the clones were MK Ultra. They were cloned for this. Of course, they would just turn on their masters if the right order was given. That's what they were trained to do. They were biologically enhanced and changed so that they would always follow orders. That was the point. But in the TV show for kids, they added a chip in their brains. Each one has a chip that inhibits them from disagreeing with orders. And there's only a few of them that can resist it. And there's this whole nightmare scenario with it. So top it off, they really had no choice. And Yoda still just slaughtered like hundreds of them. Like, you have this scene in the Revenge of the Sith, right, where Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi are sitting in a room shocked and bewildered as they watch Anakin slaughtering children as they just left like 40 younglings dead and slaughtered. Force mind trick is still a thing, isn't it? Couldn't they have just said you're looking somewhere else and just walked in? But no, they have to kill 50 10-year-olds guarding the security room. I have my moments. This tangent's gone on too long. I know. I haven't even started yet. The point I was getting at is George Lucas is a psychopath. Always has been. And what helped him with his first trilogy was he actually had a lot of normalish people around him. Like, remember, nobody, not from Harrison Ford to who played Luke Skywalker, that guy who was crazy dude now, Mark Hamill, and all those other people around the producers, all those people were nobodies. They were like fresh faces in Hollywood before Star Wars. I can't remember if Harrison Ford did anything before that, but I know Indiana Jones was later, right? Because George Lucas and what's his face, the creepy Spielberg pervert, went in together on those movies. But the point is, you had normalish people who were just starting their career, right? All around this psychopath had a grand vision, a very interesting grand vision, but because he can't connect with normal humanity, he puts in a lot of weird things like, oh, they're brother and sister, or this or that, or crap, right? And then you had the normal people like, Lucas, this isn't how normal people act. Let's help you. Right? And that's why the interaction seemed a lot more human in the first three movies that he made, because he was more the vision guy and he kept vision, and then there was a lot of like writers and producer types, and his wife was actually a big deal. He divorced his wife before the prequels, and she was like that factor that was keeping him semi-human. That makes sense. Helping him keep up the ruse that he was actually a human and not a weird automaton pervert. And so that's why she's probably a weirdo too, but you know, it's one of those things. She was less of a weirdo. And so that's why you had that weird, huge tone shift in storytelling in the prequels, is because he got.
Is that why he had a slave dress?
That's why he
was that after his wife.
No, that was just all eye candy. Besides, face it, the slave outfit Leia, she slaughters the worm who put her in it. So
I think his wife had something to say.
No, the really funny part is Harrison Ford, or Han Solo is blind the whole time. He misses his love interest in the bikini. I mean, that's tough, man. Everybody got to see that before him. That's mean. Anyway, I haven't lost anyone, so I'm going to continue my tangent. So that's why. That's why the original people who were part of the old franchise weren't there anymore. Harrison Ford at this point in his career hated Star Wars.
He's getting grouchy. He starts getting.
Well, back then he hated it too, which is hilarious.
He never wanted to. Really, he didn't think he would actually get the position.
Funny enough, there's a story about him. He was actually dating the Carrie Fisher at the time. There's a story about him jumping out on, like he was hiding in set naked and then jumped out at her. It was kind of funny. It's pretty. I mean, it's you got to be pretty confident. Really confident. Worked apparently. The Harrison Ford dating ritual: hide in the closet naked and jump out and say surprise. They either hate it or they love it. You better be in shape.
It's better than Neil Gaiman's strategy.
Oh God. We should clarify also they were already dating at that point. So that was.
I know.
I thought I should clarify it there, right? It's a little less creepy.
You did say if people were paying attention, in case not.
The game in case there was. Hey, I met you 5 minutes ago. You want to get in a tub? God. As the classic meme goes with the Peter Griffin meme. God, who starts out a conversation like that? I just sat down.
Sits there at the table with his date.
Oh God, tub cuddles. Yeah. But the prequels are still way better than the sequels, which just shows how the people in Hollywood are becoming more and more automaton slave weirdos with less and less humanity. But yeah, that's also why. So people are looking at the prequels way too positively these days because they look so much better compared to the sequels. Because the sequels got nothing for them. They don't have good world building. Excuse me. They don't have good stories. They don't have good characters. The effects, honestly, aren't that good anymore. They look kind of cartoonish and weird. Like the first one, the prequels had okay visuals. There was some good stuff, but they were kind of getting into that. By the time the second one and the third one, the visuals just look trash. They look trash and wrong. Ugh. Sorry, my cat is being very distracting. So people look back at the prequels and go, whoa, it's so much better. It must be good. No, it's sitting next to a bigger turd. And again, people like the prequels, especially in video games, because the world building's so good. See, in a good video game, all you need is good world building, and then, well, the story helps, but you just need good world building, and then you want to be in that universe, you want to play in that universe. Thus, things like Battlefront 2 and all those clone-based Star Wars games were so popular and good because it was fun. It was kind of fun playing the MK Ultra crazy guys, who were definitely slaves, by the way. I guess we shouldn't be surprised, right? Buying a slave boy off-world awkward situation. Maybe we should be surprised when the Jedi are just like, yes, we'll just have a bunch of army slave boys, we will. The Janissaries in space is all they are. I should probably get started. We should probably get started here. Yeah. So, you guys are awesome. Thanks for coming in. I hope you enjoyed that random tangent and a little bit of history about Star Wars and why they're so different between the different series. But we're going to get started. In the conclusion, I really wish I'd taken some more time to go over this lesson. I hope it's not too bad. It was that one time. I'm worried it'll be a repeat, but we're going to go. Aha! Make sure it's operating properly. Yes. All right. Don't you love it when the AI doesn't screw up on feet? It's a miracle. The conclusion of the matter. At last, dear readers, we come to the end of this light ride through the meat of the Bible. Your first taste of solid spiritual food. And I imagine this was far from your expectation, whether you are a young Christian making Christianity yourself, make Christianity yours, or a recent convert to the Bible. Still, the Bible and her writers are what they are. We shouldn't view them from our perspectives, but attempt to view their meaning from the context of their writing. We fight a war not against flesh and blood, against enemies far more ancient and powerful than we can imagine, yet our God is older and far more terrifying. Then Elijah said to the prophet of Baal, choose for yourself one bull and prepare it first, for you are many, and call upon the name of your God, but put no fire to it. Then they took the bowl that was given them, and they prepared it and collected upon the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, O Baal. And they limped around the altar that they had made. And at noon, Elijah mocked them, saying, he is a god. Either he is musing, or he is relieving himself, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their custom with sword lances. Time of the offering of the oblation, but there was no voice, no one attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, come near to me. And all the people came near to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been thrown down. Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be your name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 seahs of seed. Remember the context of the Bible? I have no idea what that means, but I'm assuming that's a big-ass trench. And he put the wood in order and cut the bowl to pieces and laid it on the wood and said, fill 4 jars of water and pour it out on the burnt offering and on the wood. And he said, do it a second time. And he said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. By the way, these are big old pots, nothing small. And the water ran around the altar and filled the trench also with water. And at the And at the time of the offering of the oblation, Elijah the prophet came near and said, O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that the people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, The Lord, he is God, the Lord, he is God. And Elijah said to them, Seize the prophets of Baal, that not one. Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon and slaughtered them there. Don't you love like the Churchians kind of leave that part out? Oh yeah, and then he killed like 500 people in this story. Up here, this prayer, right?
3 times.
Right. O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things in your word. Notice it doesn't say that there are no other gods, that he in Israel. What this is implying is that, and as what we've seen in other lessons, remember the war in heaven when they're trying to give the revelation to Ezekiel? What's implying that God is taking back control of Israel and is blocking the demonic forces that would have been answering the prophets of Baal. So this was even more distressing for the prophets of Baal because they freely expected Baal to answer. But as they were going on, they were realizing that Baal was getting his ass kicked and they were not getting any help.
Baal was getting his balls kicked.
Oh, yeah. Kicked in. So it's even worse when Elijah's balking them, right? He knows very well what's going on. He knows that God's armies are winning. God's taking back. And, that's part of the reason also why those prophets of Baal are straight up executed. Because let's say that the Baal didn't exist, like a lot of churchians want to put it out, that there was no evil entity, that it was all fake, right? They often bring it up with this story because you have this whole part where nothing answers and Elijah mocks them for it and make like, oh, you see, he's saying no other gods exist, only God exists, and ignore the concept that the devil and his minions would masquerade as gods and all that, right? And since the Bible literally refers them to gods, and they're, we've gone over those lessons. The point is, did I lose my point? I lost my point. Started going on that tangent, and wife forgot to make me coffee. She even told me twice she was going to make me coffee. She just remembered now, and she's in shock. Well, too late. So,
Oops.
I feel demeaned.
I did it again.
Right. I lay that point out there. That if Baal was just a fake entity and these guys were just deceived, then they wouldn't deserve to be executed. However, if they were serving a dark false god that was pushing evil and destruction in the land, then yes, execution would 100% be justified. Like if you're just a confused person worshiping a block of wood, that wouldn't deserve execution. But if you're worshiping a dark entity god thing that pushes you to do evil, then yeah,
Behind that block of wood.
then yeah, then corporate punishment is justified. In future semesters, we will explore just how petrified of the Almighty and his impending vengeance his enemies are. So much so that just the mention of Jesus Christ's name and the demons shudder. James 2:19. There is power in the name, and as stated in God's prophecy all the way back in Genesis, the power of the devil and death have been shattered. He has crushed the head of the serpent, but this snake has just enough life in it to strike his heel, the body of Christ. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one spirit. 1 Corinthians 12, chapter 12, 12-13. The heel being struck in Genesis 3 murdered children in Bethlehem. The delayed plans of the Almighty God of heaven's armies. The Pharaoh's murderous reign. Calves, the martyrs, and everyone you can think of slaughtered. That there would be casualties in his chosen vessel, Jesus Christ. Oh, as his chosen vessel, Jesus, his enemy. The sacrifices of all those who came before, all those women sent into sexual slavery by Muslim slaves, all those slaughtered in the pointless Christian civil wars known as World War I and II, all and those many nameless deaths of the upright by the Mongols in itself. And the Lord said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand." Genesis 4:10-11. Vengeance is of the Lord, and he has broken his enemy and holds the date of his demise over the devil's head. A cosmic slap ever present in the back of evil's mind. Not giving them no peace. There will be justice, and all those who refuse to search out forgiveness in Christ, and thus who refuse to choose the one true God of gods, will see no more mercy. The Lord will be terrible to behold, yet cathartic when you look at the horrid sins perpetrated by the corrupt. Surely, even creation cries out for their destruction. Just be careful not to be one of those casualties thrash around you. Be mindful and pray like your life depends on it does. The idea is terrifying to know that not all is set in stone. I just had this with my uncle the other day. Side tangent here, but you guys are here for the tangents. My grandpa died. The official, it says that he fell asleep at the wheel while driving. I'm be honest, I question that narrative. Something really weird happened around that accident. Regardless, he died, and there were certain things he could have done that he wouldn't have been on that road. Like, he was a good man, but that was just after he'd retired, and he could have retired a lot sooner. It's a complicated thing. And my uncle literally said this line where he's like, not to share too much of a personal conversation, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He was like, I'm like 99% sure that everyone's death is allotted, but in this case, if you just change something, and I'm like, first of all, you clearly don't believe that if you're talking like this at all. Second of all, I don't see that in the Bible. I'm assuming he's talking about a few verses in my head, but particularly Ecclesiastes and a few others where it says, what is man's allotted time? 100 years, I can give him 110 or something like that. And that's obviously more of a poetic statement. I don't, sometimes in certain lives, like Moses is about to die, right? God tells him this much, and he goes up the mountain and tells him to go there. It seems to me that though God can know when everyone's going to die, it's not always when he wants them to die, if that makes sense. Obviously, he didn't want Abel to die. Otherwise, why punish Cain so thoroughly for it? Right? We go back to what we were talking about in the last lesson. The argument that atheists have used against us. What is it again? That's right. God's a psychopath because he doesn't stop evil from happening. And you know what? They would be 100% right if there wasn't more complicated things going on in the background. Spiritual things we don't fully understand, necessity of prayer for God to act in the physical world, all this other stuff, right? If that wasn't there, then God has no business punishing Cain because he could have stopped Cain from committing that murder. You can see this trend in all the atheist nonsense work. You see it in the was that god awful overrated crap. Ironically, I think Gaiman actually had a hand in writing it, right? Who wrote The Watchmen? The comic book series, and then the movie, right? In the movie, there's the line where the comedian just shot his baby mama who came in demanding him to take care of her baby, and he kills her while she's pregnant. And the godlike being next to him goes, "You killed her." And the comedian aptly looks at him in the face and says, "Yeah, you could have stopped me, and you didn't. Why didn't you stop me? Well, you could have turned the bullet into flowers. You could bring her back right now, but you don't." Alan Moore. Oh, it was Alan Moore. Well, another atheist freak, right? And right there, that comedian talking is the author's voice, the atheist voice talking. And it's actually a fairly compelling argument. If everything is set in stone and allotted and God controls every single aspect of everything, then he is an absolute psychopath. The answer is obviously not that. And the Bible shows, like, the amount of times that God is surprised in the Bible and he brings it up, or has his mind changed. Like, think about this. If things aren't more dynamic, right? God isn't more of a dynamic force that with strategy changes and ideas changes, and I've shown if you look at, for example, in Job, right? What is that whole situation, right? He has a court, he has a kingdom, and he has spirits that are courtiers around him, basically serving as his counsel. He bounces ideas off him. There's a time when Saul's going to be defeated, where the prophet tells Saul, "I saw a meeting in heaven where God asks his assembled angels and spirits, who will go to Saul and convince him to attack the Assyrians or the Philistines, so he can his fulfilled crimes and death can be done." Right there, right? That's not a lot of death. That's God manipulating events so Saul dies. That's not like the fate of the modern churchian have this idea of basically the Greek mentality of the three sisters' fate, right? And one eye can always see it, one eye does this, and then they cut the thread right when the right time happens, right? The Bible suggests something very different. That God's will can push things, the events that happen, and of course he can know the future. Like, it's also this kind of, if we bring physics into this, we're getting into all kinds of tangents. A dimensional being that's not in our dimension, if we will, what God would be, someone who create the physical world, would not be bound by time. He would be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Nowhere is not the right word, but he would be everywhere at the same time. It's talking physics is a funny thing too. It would be kind of like, for example, if you could imagine you're watching a movie and it's a DVD or something, and you hit pause, and then you hit rewind, then you hit fast forward. You are in each part of that timeline, wherever you want to be in that timeline. That's kind of how God works. He's in the whole timeline. That's a bit of a theory, but again, if he's outside of our dimension, it's just going to work differently. It's very interesting. C.S. Lewis hinted at similar things. For example, when the whole time difference, right? He had this whole section in The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe where he mentioned that he would expect that the time differences between a dimension would be quite large. As in, you're in there for 10 minutes, it's like 5 in the other world, the world you came from. Or, as it turns out, live a whole life in Narnia and come back and it's only been 5 minutes.
Hence the
awkward.
lamp thing.
Yeah. And I should have insisted on the coffee, but I'll be okay.
I'm sorry.
I realized, man, I fumbled over the physics explanation so bad, but that's okay. Basically,
do work.
Do. No, it's fine. We'll keep powering through. Right. Dimension out of time. Anyway, I bring up a lot of this other stuff because the actual scenes in the Bible where we get a picture of how God's decision making makes, it's a lot of he's in an alpha position with his servants around him, and he does something like, all right, I want Saul to do this according to the prophecy. Who will convince him to go attack the Philistines the way I want? And one spirit said one thing, one spirit said another thing, and then another up and says, hey, I will be a lying, deceiving spirit in his promise, telling him that he'll be and I believe it was Saul. I hope it wasn't one of the other kings. It should be Saul. Don't quote me on that. It was either Saul or Ahab. And no, it was Ahab. It was Ahab. It wasn't Saul. It was King Ahab.
Yeah, I remember.
Sorry about that, guys.
I remember now. I think
it was
story.
King Ahab. It has to be King Ahab.
And then it happened accordingly to the.
Yeah, it was King Ahab. I'm sorry, guys.
Long before his death, he gave him like 5 extra years or something.
So it was a lot of crazy stuff that went down in King Ahab. I'm pretty sure it was King Ahab. Sorry for mixing up my kings. Saul was the one that had the whole thing with the Witch of Endor.
But then Ahab, because he followed or did, listened, he had 5 extra years.
There was something like that. And right. Sorry. And that's why I got mixed up between, because I knew it was the Assyrians in my head. But
booked in the Book of Kings. Who would have known?
My wires have just gotten a little twisted over here. But all right. King Ahab. Pretty sure it was King Ahab. Anyway, And so,
We'll look it up.
and so, and so. Ah, you're so contrite. You look so sorry, wife. But it's my own fault for staying up till 3 a.m. last night, to be honest.
What were you doing?
Embarrassingly, I was playing video games. Not gonna lie, I got hooked for a little bit there. Needed some time to myself. It was a poor choice, though, I must say. God, my sleep schedule.
But I did have a question though. You know how God judges angels and all?
You want to hold that till I finish the tangent?
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, we'll answer.
I
that
remember it.
So, first of all, right, we have him, a spirit angel, whatever. Being the correct answer is stuff. Being a deceiving spirit in the mouth of a prophet, which is really interesting, right? Highlighting the fact that though the devil is the father of lies, God and his servants aren't above using deceit to get get the will of God out there. That's very interesting. Keep in mind, this is coming from a prophet that had it revealed to him by God when Ahab demanded he speak about it. Oh, was it? My brain is so tired. It's like the story is slowly coming back to me because I'm pretty sure it was the king of Israel and the king of Judah were coming together, and then the king of Judah wanted to talk to the prophet of God, and the king Ahab didn't. That's what it was. That's why. Sorry about that. This is, of course, a story we'll probably get into in one of our semesters. It's really fascinating. And so, right, we see a sneak peek. We also see it in Job, right, where the Satan, which, Dr. Heiser was really good. I couldn't believe no one had told me this or figured it out when I was younger, but the Satan in Job isn't the Satan, isn't the devil. It's a role. It's the accuser, right? Yes, the great Satan becomes the nickname of the devil, the old dragon, the red dragon, right? That becomes his name. And it's a fitting name, right? He's the great accuser of everybody and trying to drag everyone down. But that role in Job, that wasn't a thing yet. Like they hadn't created a name for that original freak, the original snake in the garden yet. That this was just the spirit who had a role. His role at this point was to go out throughout the earth, find bad people, and accuse them of their evil. And in this case, God pointed out Job and said, "Hey, look at that guy. He's awesome." And the accuser was like, "You know what? No." Got a little up and he said, "If you didn't bless him so much." Now, it's also interesting with Job is it's hard to know how much of that is poetry, how much of that is like divine revelation. And I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's something that I'm going to have to ask God when I'm up there, kind of thing. Because it seems like Job got put for the ringer. It doesn't seem to jive well with the rest of the Bible. However, the scene with the of God presiding over like a kingdom of angels and servants under him he acts like the ultimate alpha. He bounces ideas off them. They give him ideas. He says, "Okay, you go do that. I empower you to do that. You have my seal to go do that." Blah blah blah. And you can see it later on in Revelations and all these other books where there's always a council around him. There's always a bunch of angels around him. He's not just a lot of times Protestants and Catholics too have not Catholics less. They have the saints concept and whatnot, but this idea that he's like a monolithic entity that's just constantly doing this everywhere. But no, he has servants. Yeah, I'm assuming I'm getting into the weeds.
Like I said,
but you get the point. I hope. And I'm trying to remember why I went down this path now.
Because we're talking about the cancels, right?
The cancels?
Council.
Why?
Council.
The point is,
why
Job
was needed. Oh, wait,
in the book of Job, whether or not there's a lot of fictional stuff or just political stuff, because Job is often seen as a possibly fictional work that's poetic. Regardless, you can see, like some people think it's kind of like Dante's Inferno, if that makes any sense. We'll see. But the point is, we see that the view of those ancient Israelites was that God had a council of angels around him. And again, we see later on this confirmed in the story of Ahab, and later on for lots of different prophets and whatnot who get a view of heaven. And so, really wish. Wow, I am really tripping up today. I'm sorry, guys. Pray like your life depends on it, is the point, because it's a messy war. Oh, I was trying to get into the fact that there's more give and take. Like Moses convinces God not to kill the Israelites. If he was just a monolithic being that had everything planned out originally, didn't change his plans ever, didn't adapt his plans to what happened, had a personality, even, if I should say, like if they view him as like a force in a way, a sugar daddy when they want something from him, almost like an elderish god type entity that just does whatever the hell it does when they want to absolve him of all moral considerations, and still have everything controlled so they can live in their perfect little box world where nothing goes bad, right? This is why I said that there's no Calvinists in foxholes, because you can't believe that God, if there wasn't more going on and God just let your friend die for the hell of it, or even killed your friend for some reason, right? You can't hang on to that belief. You have to believe that there's a war and a struggle going on, that for some reason stuff was blocking that saving, that the corrupt world has caused problems, that maybe God could have, but he would have had to like destroy the world or just call war early or something. I don't know exactly how it all is. I suspect, and I've talked to my wife about this, but I mean that if you look in Revelations, right, there's this point where after God comes back, every knee bows, right? And then the devil's locked up, but he's not destroyed. And then 1,000 years later, all these people rebel against God again, and they release the devil, right? The text, it doesn't say that God released him or anything. It just says he's released, which is fascinating.
Who released him?
Yeah, it doesn't say who or how or why the devil's released, just it says he is. And I'm like, and a bunch of people rebel again. Now, why would they rebel and jump on the fallen horse like that? Like, the devil's been truly beaten at that point. Why would you jump on the horse unless you thought there was some way he could win? And at that point, the reality of the world would have been revealed to most people, right? So I think the revelations of how the spiritual world works is going to be a shocker to a lot of people. That's a side note.
I was gonna ask you about,
Sure. Side note, let's go.
How how God's gonna judge all the angels and all that.
Mm-hmm. And well,
what about,
it says even more than that. It says we'll judge the
we'll
angels.
judge.
Like we're put up as judges over them and how they did. Yeah, I know. Well, Paul, I believe it's Paul. I forget which verse, but he says, "Don't you?" Well, I assume.
I feel like,
remember, we're going to be joining things like those councils and having different roles in heaven and whatnot. It makes it pretty clear that something like that's going on. This is why Vox. It was funny when somebody asked Vox Day, what will he ask God? Was, what do you want me to do now? Like, what's next? What have you been training for?
Yeah.
And I lean more and more towards that mentality that there's more than our struggle here on earth, that there's more going on after Revelations. This is just the chapter that we see right now.
I mean, the fact that it always says there's going to be a new heaven, a new earth, a new Jerusalem, makes me wonder that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, for all we know, we restart the cycle again, but now we're one of those elder beings trying to convince the next wave of humans not to be stupid. Or it could be much more interesting than that.
I don't know. But...
Okay. Everyone, this is not Bible talk. This is pure Aaron Grizzly, Robin Grizzly. speculation mode, like I put it something I would
Yeah.
put in my books. Maybe God revealed some things and I didn't realize it, but I can't know any of that. All right. It wouldn't surprise me if the reason why there's so much mentality in the back of our minds of like the elder God concept, right? What did Tolkien put at the bottom of his mountains? The nameless things, old things beyond comprehension, right? The even in all the old stories, you have Chronos, you have all these entities, these weird things in the background that aren't quite gods, aren't quite other things. I wouldn't be surprised if God's getting an army together to go face some weird eldritch horror thing out in the vastness of space, and the devil's whole rebellion.
We talked till 2 a.m. about this.
Yep.
I remember back then.
I wouldn't be surprised if the devil isn't actually the biggest bad guy out there. He's just the one who was convinced to rebel. Now,
Like, what's the evil?
I have-
What's controlling the
yeah,
evil
what
now?
makes the devil think that he could win? Like, he clearly thinks he can win. Even after the cross, he still thinks that maybe it's just pride. But I wonder if there's something egging him on, using him, right? Trying to get to God. But again,
one of those things releasing him?
I can't know.
I don't know.
I can't know. And again, that's like speculation, wild writer mind going there. the book dude, like, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a whole nother thing that they had to fight at the end of the world? If I were writing the story, that's what was going on. But I mean,
That's not
it's
a
like
twist.
I've often wondered why the physical world imperfect, because it was clearly not imperfect. It was good, but not perfect, right?
He said it was good.
We've gone
but
over the whole lessons on that, right?
That's interesting.
But he makes us, and we're supposed to bring the rest of the world into perfection. We're supposed to in and take dominion over the world. And we know there's lots of rough animals, there's lots of rough energies out there and whatnot. Lots of ancient. We brought up the chaotic darkness that pagan witches and whatnot tend to channel, right, in nature itself. And and God hints at this, like says, right, swallow the blood, like the creation itself cries out to me. Jesus says, if these people don't speak out, it's a little hyperbolic, but I think there's more reality to it. Realize that stones themselves would cry out, creation itself. And God, I hate it when I'm this tired, because I'll just stop for a second and then I'll go, what was I talking about? Am I an old man? Skydog, I thought you were the old guy here. What happened? Oh.
Let me get you some mountain.
Yeah, it's fine for now. I'm gonna power through without caffeine. I'm committed now. Maybe I should let you. I don't know, but it's getting late.
Like, after each day of creation, he says
Right.
it is good.
The point is, yeah, Dr. Heiser brings that up a lot. Highly recommend it. The point
Late
is,
Dr. Heiser.
what is poor Dr. Heiser. A great. I get 9 hours of sleep a night. Shut up. Shut up. I have
Must be nice.
I have toddlers still and a freaking weird job schedule. Shut up. I'm jealous. I admit, very jealous. Oh, yeah. And then what I mean is, and then when the devil does this whole rebellion, things get a lot worse and becomes the point that it's impossible for us to complete our task. Okay, what if my offspring are 24, 21?
Your oldest is only 4 years younger than me. 5 years younger than me. I'm 5 years older than your youngest.
Skydog,
5.5, maybe.
you realize she's young enough she could have been your daughter, dude. That's funny. Anyway, so
Hey, Greg, see ya. Uncle Skydog. Just kidding.
It kind of breaks my mind sometimes. I forget how old everybody is on SG, and then you run into the guys who make me feel old on SG,
What's funny
like
is the Bears,
Heidi Bear and
The
stuff.
Bears are young,
That's true.
but the people in SG are,
Gen X,
Gen Xers.
essentially.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. And then you got me and her here who are like in this weird middle ground. That we don't fit in with other millennials at all. Not even a little bit.
I'm the last of the quote unquote the millennial age. The last year.
Anyway, as I was saying, what if the whole point of creation was to a training ground to get an army ready to go fight whatever that was? And then these entities or whatever that evil is, knowing that what's going on, disrupt the training ground and trick one of his followers, one of his best followers, to rebel. Yes, that's a big, right? There's no way I can know any of that. And I don't need to know it. And God wouldn't tell me it anyway. And as I point out, there's a whole portion of people who are going to rebel when they find out the truth of how the spiritual world works, which tells me we really shouldn't know because we can't handle it. And a bunch of us who even survive all this and get on the other side and follow God enough that
John writes, he's like, there's more I could tell you, but you know, I cannot share it.
Yeah, John. Right. But the reality of it breaks them enough that they rebel. Or the greed of it, the temptation, something out there, right? And that's, I suspect there's some kind of other evil out there that we don't know about. But tangent. Let's get back to the actual, Bible stuff, not the headcanon of this random dude over here. Be mindful and pray like your life depends on it, because it does. The idea is terrifying to know not all is set in stone. But remember, your God is stronger, so get on your knees and pray against the evil that boils around you. Most of all, plan, build your families, your nations, and land, and give it over to the kingdom of heaven. Be in God's territory and publicly declare it to be so. As Jesus said, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, and not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. But even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows. You just look at my bald head. I saw that. Many sparrows. So everyone who acknowledges me before men, I will also before my Father who is in heaven. And yeah, he counted out every hair that fell off. Every moment you stressed me out and more hair fell off. He knew. But whoever denies me before men, I also will deny him before my Father who is in heaven. Matthew 10:27-33. And do not be surprised if you were called, as was Moses in Numbers 31, 1-7, to enact God's vengeance on earth against those who mock heaven. Be strong and courageous like Joshua and Caleb, when all others were too terrified to fight the giants and abominations in Canaan. And all the people of Israel gathered against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, would that we have died in the land of Egypt, or would that we have died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become a prey. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to one another, let us choose a leader and go back to Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assemblies of the congregation of the people of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes, and said to all the congregation of the people of Israel, the land which we passed through to spy it out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into the land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their protection is removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. And then all the congregation.
The protection is removed from them.
Yeah, right. Isn't that? That's right. We go back to like the war in heaven and gods and all the rest. God had taken away the protection, right? Then all the congregation said to stone them with stones, and their response was to stone the Joshua and Caleb. But the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the people of Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people despise me? And how long will they not believe in me, in spite of all the signs that I have done among them? Numbers 14:3-11.
In front of them, they still get
Yeah. So in this new year, that's why we call them the boomer generation, those fucks. So in the new year, I encourage to more turmoil in our modern age by the day, and we shall not fear it. He who dwells in the change this a little bit. We who dwell in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I'll just read it. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find as a shield and a buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. And see the recompense of the wicked, because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, the Most High, who is in my refuge. No evil shall be allowed to befall you, no plague come near your tent. For he will command the angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. Because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him. I will protect him, because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer. Long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Psalms 91. Watch the Grizzly Files, you know it's a very special one. The you will not fear the terror demon bitch, as we'll call her. Watch the Lilith of the Grizzly Files if you want the lowdown on that. God protects his own, but as seen in the Israelites' example, sin breaks your protection from God. And as we pointed out, right, God can break your protection from whatever. The prophets of Baal as well.
And generational curses.
Be as you can. When possible, live peacefully. But do not, when possible. But do not hesitate to purge the evil and responsible for what the corrupt do in your lands, communities, and houses. If you refuse to confront evil churches, towns, cities, nations, and kingdoms, you will always be culpable for the sins you enable within the territory given you to steward over for the kingdom of heaven. Never forget God's commands, and remember to come back for part 2 next year. Commence and the death throes of the rebellious watchers revealed. Go and make this year a year of tolerance for evil, for bravery of strong men in Christ, of men who respect every aspect of the body of Christ. For the sake of the kingdom of heaven, for the sake. I was like, what the heck am I reading? Sake. I said sack for some reason. What the heck? Screw you. Sake of the kingdom of heaven and their descendants. That's so annoying. Be strong and courageous, men of God, for the Almighty God of heaven's armies has mustered his forces all around you for the fight to come. But seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33. Whoops. Yeah, there's no questions this today. Anyway. Woo! Where is this? Now you get to see me in full screen. Hi. Wow, it's been a while since we got done in an hour. That was a long one, too. I feel like I read a lot.
Just imagine how much shorter it would have been without the Star Wars brain work.
Well, it would have been exactly 15 minutes shorter because we started at the 15-minute mark to actually talk about the lesson life.
Never mind.
I don't have to imagine. I know. Oh, man. Do you guys have any burning questions about the last semester? This is the time to throw them at me. I think you know what? Next Monday, movie night.
What's happening?
Well, I don't know if I can live stream a movie with issues. I'll look that up.
Maybe little clips.
But then it's like we need to stream for an hour anyway. I'll look it up. Maybe I can just like put voices over it every now and then. Watch a bunch of it. Put our faces up with the cat in the way. Meow.
Amazon Watch Party.
There's ways to do it. little ways to trick the algorithm so it doesn't bother us. But yes, we'll be talking about Satanic Lego next time. That's my plan. Mostly because even if you don't like the movie or didn't watch any of those movies,
There's
it's
so much.
it's a great study case for symbology and for the way evil communicates its message in story form. So it's actually funny as it is, right? It being Lego and all that. It's the ideal movie to start teaching people to see evil's little trickery, if you know what I mean. And you, I don't think people should ignore the symbology. Okay, for example, back in the day,
Past
Christians
movie.
understood symbology. I remember, for example, I wish I had the painting on me, but I was scrolling through YouTube waiting for customers one day when uh, a, one of the videos showed an old art piece from some, I'm guessing, Renaissance, and it had one of the popes of the day and an owl and some other imagery on it, which basically connected through the imagery. If you don't know, the owl, and they would have known this, is the symbol for the demonic entity known as Lilith. That's her thing. Also, Moloch comes to mind, right? And basically, the artist was using imagery to connect that current pope to paganism and making that political statement there, and also that evil kind of underlying statement, right? The video was hinting that the church was overreacting and I'm like, no, this artist was clearly attacking them and calling them pagan, demonic, and all this other stuff, right? Through the imagery in the painting. When you understand the basis of their imagery, you can weed out those who are just stupid when they write and don't know what they're doing or just being used, and those who are actively trying to destroy your culture. And then you can burn them at the stake. It's great. Or burn the steak. Delicious.
I would eat that one. That has to.
And that's why it's important to understand how they do their stories and whatnot. And since they're being so blatant with that one, it's a great way to.
It's kind of interesting too how you said Harry Potter has like the owl in front of its cover and it's written by a woman.
Time for pennies.
Written by a woman, a feminist woman at that.
Yep. And my wife.
So many people fall for it, saying, "Oh, it's just the cover art."
As my wife says, she's bringing up that I suspect that whether knowingly or unknowingly, what's her face?
The J.R. art.
No.
No.
The person who wrote the Harry Potter series.
No,
I forget her name, and I don't care to know it right now. Made a deal with that entity specifically.
It really seems like it, because why are so many women are like reading it,
and
they're feminist
them
types.
Right into witchcraft. So
they're feminist types. They become feminist types, and then they become, more and more down that road.
It's very. I have yet to.
High number of people, even who don't read it, even dabble.
Yeah, the point is
making
it's our own personal experience, but I've learned not to trust people who are big fans of Harry Potter. Minor fans who haven't read it too thoroughly, you could read it and not understand what you're reading because it could be just an adventure story to you.
I remember you saying that your sister never read the books and all that, but yet she sells stuff.
No, but the other sister who is crazy, she did read them thoroughly and many times. The Las Vegas one.
Oh, okay. Because
the other one didn't read them because she
didn't read them, but she has books, but she has reference to the stuff that she sells.
It's true.
To it.
Yes, it's lovely.
And she's the one that
having a witch in the family. Anyway, so when you can see the symbolisms in it, what they're doing becomes more obvious. And again, sometimes people can unknowingly make a connection and get a weird blessing, but it's actually not that uncommon. For example, the guy who wrote Jekyll and Hyde actually actively said that he was communicating with demonic entities, particularly wee people, short people, like gnomes and that kind of things and fairies, and they were down basically telling him the story to write. It makes you wonder just how many books have
Especially
been
big books that make it, you know.
Mhm. have been inspired, like the Bible was inspired, right? The Bible was inspired by God, but the negative version of that have been inspired by evil to confuse mankind. How many books are like that? Some of them are more obvious than others. Having little demonic entities literally tell you what to write, probably a good sign. uh, being convinced to make the owl your symbol and having actively mock the church actively in the books, while the world building in Harry Potter, the books I've read, actively mock the church, and actively mock witch burning, saying that, oh, the witches weren't burning, they were just making loud laughing noises and then teleporting away. And I thought to myself, well, that's stupid. But now I realize it's even gayer than that because it's like oh, you didn't actually beat me. I put up an invisible beam. Right? It's the kid. Oh, I actually won. I actually liked it. So pathetic. And then, plenty of these witch characters died of knives and stuff, but apparently fire can't hurt them. I think if I brought a flamethrower, it would work.
Oh, when they go to hell, they'll find out.
Yeah. Anyway, you don't have that accidental imagery and the pushing of real spells and all that stuff without that entity being involved. And though the Harry Potter is, I will give it credit, it's written well enough. It's not that good. It's okay. It's a decent
Better
piece.
junk food.
The first couple books are kind of fun to read, but they're not as good as people make them out to be. The third book with the time shenanigans was actually pretty well constructed. I'll give her hats off to that. But it also completely broke the series because it made no, as many a video have shown, they probably should have kept using time travel. And don't. As well as it was constructed, it completely broke everything because they give a teenage girl the ability to go back in time so she can do more homework. Giving someone that much power just so you can do more homework? And you're telling me they're that flippant about giving it out and no one abuses it? Furthermore, the book makes it very clear that it's essentially the original Terminator, not Terminator 2, where they fuck their own lore up, but the original Terminator, where no matter what you did. So in the original Terminator, right, the Terminators are sent back and all that, but ironically, Skynet sending the Terminators back are actually what created John Carter, because the guy who also was sent back to stop the Terminators was John Carter's dad from the future, who then, because he was going back to save John Carter's mom when she before she could be killed, right? This is the whole story, the whole element. John Carter's dad is in the future fighting with John Carter. He gets sent back into the past to save John Carter's mom. Is John Carter? Am I saying the right name? The hero character who's JC, Jesus Christ, right? To save her, right? He's sent back a guardian, right? To save her from the evil, the robot sent back to kill her. In that process, he sleeps with her and creates John Carter and destroys the robot and then dies in the process. Meaning that the very situation that Skynet was trying to stop was created because it meddled with time. So the original Terminator was, you can't change anything. Everything already happened in the timeline. And you going back was always set in stone. Does that make any sense? Right. That's essentially the Harry Potter, though I don't think she knew what she was doing. Rowan, something like that.
Oh, J.K. Rowling.
That's the one, right? I don't think she understood what she's setting up because I think she screwed with it later on. But basically, in that one book, if you don't take the rest of the series into it, it's the whatever you go, Linda whenever you go back in time, right, everything they did led to what they did later on in the book and all the rest. So she actually connected that very well. Again, I highly doubt she stuck to that hot and fast rule that everything that when you go back in time, you've done everything already. And it sounds weird to the average person, but it makes sense. The concept is there's one timeline, and if you went back in time, you'd already gone back in time and done whatever shit you'd done. Thus, the time doesn't actually change. If you went back to change something, then you'd always done that, and whatever you'd done there either had no effect or always led to the thing happening.
You know what's funny?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think women cannot write very well.
Some
Naturally,
can. It's rare.
No. Naturally, I don't think not as well as men.
I could go with that.
So I could see that if she was influenced by something.
It's true, but as we pointed out,
because I've heard some modern ladies will be like, "I'm a writer. I write fantasy," and I'm like, "No."
You know what? Don't. I will also be fair that there's plenty of guys who are like, "I'm a writer. I write fantasy."
I know, but.
Oh, hey, look, there's a redheaded elf. I wonder what's going to... Oh, yeah, she's sleeping with the protagonist. Wonder when that was going to happen.
Very original. They can't write original things.
Not that there's much original under the sun, but it's particularly egregious.
You know what I mean.
I do know.
You know what I'm trying to say, too. It's like...
And they do, too, as well. They've all ran into that type. We've all read... If a woman isn't
I'm going to be
taking...
that sexist to say women cannot write.
If a woman's not a photographer, she fancies herself a writer.
And I know there are some women who can do the word. But...
They're rare. They're like one a few a generation here and there. And yeah, that was all. I'm coming around to the original point at the back was it seems to me that the series wasn't good enough to take on the following it did unless it was blessed by something. If that makes any sense. Yeah, they also Benton probably took the tick and all the rest, but I'd say there's also spiritual things pushing it as well.
Just like in songwriting.
Yeah. And again, it was good enough to capture the minds of young people who wanted something different to read that wasn't as hard to read as Lord of the Rings or even Chronicles of Narnia for that matter. It's funny. Chronicles of Narnia is not a hard read, but it is still harder to read for a lot of people. It's amazing how packed it is full of stuff, though. As an adult, I reread it and I find new stuff every day, and I'm like, every time, and I'm like, wow, it's fun, it's awesome.
It's kind of funny watching you reread it when you do reread it in front of the kids.
Yep, they're not quite ready yet. They were interested for a little bit, and then they kind of
look, a random picture after all these pages of words.
Come on, Dad.
Didn't you know you're reading me a bedtime story?
All fall asleep together. I might try again in a little while. Oh boy. Yeah. Whew. So, conclusion of the matter: stay strong, be good, pray like your life depends on it, because it does, and your family's lives depend on it.
And don't be an idiot.
Spiritual war is real, and it's going on around you. God's going to win, but don't be a casualty. CJ Cheryl was a pretty talented woman. I've never even heard of her, which probably means she is talented in a way, because it seems like they only ever push untalented writers, female writers specifically. Bothers me. And of course, Vox's second favorite or third favorite writer was the female writer who makes those Japanese. That's a slip. It's sad. I don't know a lot of these kind of middle to old. Like, I know a lot of good stuff was written that it seems like everybody else in like the Vox crowd knows about, that I just never found it in any of my libraries growing up. Well, the picture is not doing her very much credit.
Speculative fiction.
Oh, by the way, wife, way to be a woman. Oh, look, she looks tired. Yeah, because she wrote a book.
Yeah.
So, trying to think if there's anything else I want to push down people's throats right now. The world is spiritual and crazier and weirder than you could ever imagine. The fight can be physical, spiritual, and usually a mix of both.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Currently a resident of Spokane,
And
Washington.
what else did we talk about this
She
whole
has won
semester?
4 Hugo Rewards.
Back when Hugo Awards meant something. Darn it, Hugo. Oh, what else? Jesus Christ is one. God has to hide his plans from the devil, or the devil will screw with him. Sylvia. God, speaking of that, I like a good zombie. Speaking of the COVID stuff, I like a good zombie flick.
Yeah, these are all old women. Of course, they're better at writing that than though.
Rowan's pretty old at this point too.
Not true.
I was gonna say, isn't it annoying now knowing that a lot of those zombie things were probably just trying to hype people up to accept cures? It's cures that are just vaccines meant to poison them. That annoys me so much. I even have a few zombie flicks in me that are going to come out in my books, but it's like they always have
American children effective fiction writer.
They always have the same mentality. It always leads like it accumulates in my mind in a video game. Actually, The Last of Us Part 1, right, where the big moral dilemma is they have to kill the female character, the sidekick, the thing that has become the main character's Joel's new daughter, essentially new adopted daughter, and he has to give her up for all of humanity. And he goes, no, it kills all the doctors trying to dissect her brain. I have torn that apart so much because, again, it's just to create a vaccine, and you don't. It's kind of fun.
The far side of you.
It's not like I was on it.
Sorry. I got distracted.
Right? And it turns out that it's just a vaccine, which of course wouldn't cure those people already infected and would only work if you wouldn't save you from getting eaten by the zombie hordes. It would only stop anyone who had gotten the vaccine before from being infected further. That's it. And it doesn't make any more sense than that because there's a good chance, if we were being logical, that they're hinting that whatever chick was, because there's a growth in her brain that stops the spores from this crazy mushrooms from getting into her mind, right? There's a good chance in real life that would be straight up cancer. So, hey, not going to turn into a zombie, but you are going to die of cancer. I guess cancer is preferable, though slower. And so it might even be more painful depending on the zombie. And I don't see how dissecting someone's brain, like a tumor in someone's brain, would be able to help you create a vaccine. It doesn't work like that. We're programmed to be fascinated by zombie stories. If God let Adam and Eve eat from the tree of eternal life after they snacked on the tree of good and evil, that's how you get zombies. That's one zombie theory, one zombie type, right? The spiritual, never-ending type of zombie. But remember also, the original term for zombie was actually more of like a thrall that in witchcraft around Haiti and whatnot. Someone who was enslaved, essentially. And then it transmogrified into cursed zombies in the Dawn of the Dead, I think it was, way in the movies and whatnot, where they're coming out of their graves, but they're more of a spiritual entity. Physical, but spiritual. Ooh. And then it slowly changed to being a disease and a physical, boring zombie, in my opinion. And then you have the alien
That's
zombies.
That's why so many people look zombified after the vax. To the nth degree.
There's that. What zombies. I should do a whole
Yeah, I was just
whole
thinking, it's like,
episode
oh
on
no.
zombies one day.
Because I didn't
'Cause
know
I
all
got
the
it.
other ones about the.
Most zombie stories don't make any sense because most authors and producers and stuff don't actually understand how the world works. So they can't write a proper story that explains how the world gets consumed. 90% of the zombie stories I watch, their lore building and everything around the story don't make any sense and don't explain why the zombies aren't wiped out. Like it would be catastrophic, but 9 times out of 10 with the system that they like the way the virus spreads and all that, 9 times out of 10 the zombies would have been contained. The whole world would not have been consumed. 9 times out of 10. I've yet to watch World War Z. It's supposed to be fast acting. If you don't know, I did a little bit of ironically charity work in college that I regret a little now. You charity. Don't ask. And it was involving helping people not be stupid around HIV and other AIDS and stuff. And I learned a little bit about the virus. And those viruses are actually really weak. Well, assuming AIDS actually exists, right? But HIV it's one of those really weak ones because, and AIDS in particular, because how are they spread? Right, they're only spread through certain
Scraping monkeys. Okay, I'm sorry.
Through the blood and blood transfer or certain saliva things, but you have to have a lot of saliva before it actually happens. If you think about it, that's a really weak virus. There's plenty of viruses that if you just sneeze on somebody, you get the virus, right? So the zombie movies all show a really weak virus that requires saliva on blood contact.
You would literally have to get blood transfusion.
You really have to get bit, and then the saliva has to get into your bloodstream, which is a little weird in and of itself. But right, that is a very inefficient method for spreading a disease. And you would never get to the point where you had a mass of zombies especially The Walking Dead, what they portray, right? Just this mass clump of humans. Because guess what? If that mass got a hold of anybody, once they got to maybe 10 or 20, they would eat them. And there wouldn't be enough of the new zombie left to join the horde because they would eat them. Yeah. So hordes don't grow and wouldn't grow because once they got to a certain point, each new member would have been consumed to the point that when they're a zombie, they can't follow the horde around. Why? Unless you have a spiritual element to this where they're controlling the horde so that they just bite people and don't eat them, your horde never grows because
That's called rabies. Just kidding.
How would the horde grow otherwise? Because now, though, I did read one story where it made sense because there was a mass vaccination and the vaccine turned you into a zombie. And it was relatively fast. But even then, even in that situation, the zombies would rapidly decay or die of lack of starve. They would thirst to death because they're not drinking anything too soon. Oh, that one was a really wacky series too because it Transmogrified. I remember this whole point where it jumped the shark a little for me, but it was actually still fun because as it turned out, there was a super vampiress, like a super vampire involved, and she got infected because she ate someone, essentially, sucked the blood of someone who had the vaccine. And when she became a zombie, she became a super hive mind that controlled all the other zombies. That was interesting. And the sequel to that whole series after they defeat most of the zombies is Apocalypse, which I'm entertained. Most authors would not be brave enough to go that far. Did I finish it? No, because the man's politics started to bother me after a while. I couldn't stand it. He struck me as libertarian to the core. Yes, the lesbians were wonderful people. But the main character was fun, and he had lots of sons. It was entertaining. They escaped the zombies in very entertaining ways. And though the vampiress in zombie form is strangely attached to the family, I don't know why. Whatever. Oh, zombies. Anyway, another reason why we, particularly our generations, like if you think about it, why millennials and Gen Xers, and especially the males of our generations, really like zombie apocalypse shows is because
We like seeing boomers die.
more to the point, it's the destruction of society and allowing us to go to our base instincts of killing evil.
Remember when we went to Memphis, Mississippi? We were driving through.
Yeah.
And remember that part of town
Mhm.
by that Bass Pro? How it was horrible driving. People were walking around like, oh, like
That was
on
pretty bad.
something.
Yeah, the point.
That's
What
what happens to society when you let certain racing. So many racial slurs.
The point I'm trying to get at there is, in an apocalypse scenario, the men are suddenly valued again, right? You have this whole thing of all those males are suddenly fighting again, and the warrior types inside of us, right? Guys like me, guys like you, Skydog and whatnot. Right? Suddenly, it's not evil to be shooting all of these mindless zombies anymore. You don't have to have big. Look at that cat. What a spoiled cat.
Walk like an Egyptian.
We might have gotten this cat right around the time my daughter was being
3 more months. 4 months.
Yeah, right when we were sleep training her. So we would go from like, great, the child, right? We get her to sleep because we, like, when you're training a child, you'll get to this point where you're like rocking them for hours. You put them down, or just an hour, and then if you pick up a cat or something afterwards, you don't think about it. You just start rocking them, and he got used to it. He likes
I
being
don't
rocked.
remember how much of the times I picked him up and I just rocked him around the house.
Only cat I've ever seen who likes to be laid on his back like this. By the way, cats hate this normally, but he because he was such a young kitten when we were doing it to him, he just likes it now. It's so funny.
He gets to hear my heartbeat.
Yum.
I never had a cat, so
Yeah, amazingly, she didn't turn into a cat lady. It was a good thing I was here for her. I was a little worried for a little while when we first got that cat. She was like transferring from one baby to the cat and treating it like a baby for a little bit. I'm like, luckily.
But our daughter and the cat get along so well because they're literally the same age.
And so do the boys.
I know,
but he's much more
bonded with her because he used to crawl in her crib
and eat her binkies.
I know, but when he did,
yes, he did cuddle with her
during nap time.
I still have those nightmares of looking for the binky and finding it shredded. You, yes, you. She's thinking. Rosie, where you at, girl?
She's right
Come
over
on,
there.
Rosie. Come on, Skydog wants to see you too.
Big eyes from the cat.
What are you doing? No, I need you on this side. There's a cord, you idiot. Claude. Come here. All right. Ruff.
Look at the cat. He's like, I need to run.
Here you go, Ruff.
Don't worry, she doesn't have braids in her tail anymore.
Ruff.
I took it out.
I'm surprised you didn't put a bow on that poor thing.
It was just funny because you were just talking to me on the way out, like.
And then I looked up and she's like braiding the dog's tail. The poor thing.
And I'm going,
Stubby little tail. Oh, I suppose I should end this. Oh.
This is the longest he's let me rock him like this.
It's pretty cute.
He's
tired today.
He's actually,
he's my my orange fur ball babysitter. He keeps the boys busy. It takes a lot out of them. They are not gentle, but then neither is he. So, but I've caught him every now and then,
He would chase the
snuggling up to
oldest.
them every now and then.
Yeah, when they're asleep, but they can't. You know.
No, sometimes when they're awake too.
True.
It's very rare, but he'll cuddle up next to them when they're being calm, or boop them in the face when they wake up. So he does like them, even though they torture him thoroughly.
Yes.
It's quite
You love your
entertaining
abusers, don't you?
because he's like he's like the size of my son's torso, so he's picking him up like this,
By the
carrying him around, and the cat's like, okay, where are we going?
They'll be sitting down to watch TV, and he has to the cat run in front of him. So he's like, now you watch.
You watch with me. It's like a cat. You touched 1 millimeter into my no pet zone. I shred your hand. Luckily, he's actually pretty calm. You have to be smacking the no pet zone as hard as you can and do it repeatedly. Then he'll scratch you. We're lucky on that.
He
front.
meows and warns you with meowing.
I had the cat growing up where you did it slightly wrong. He'd shred your hand. I remember that darn cat. I would be asleep. He'd crawl into bed with me. And the next thing I know, he's attached to my hand for no good reason. I'm not even petting him. He just attaches himself and bites down.
Your arm hair touched my fur.
And I'm just throwing. I remember having wars with him in my bed as a 10-year-old, smacking him against the wall, getting him off of me. Cat. He would do the whole latch on with his claws like this on both sides of my head.
It was so funny, just how shocked you were about having this orange cat. And you're like,
and he was so calm.
And you're like, oh, that's unheard of. I'm like, I really?
The amount of abuse he goes through before he scratches is insane. For that, I allow the spoiling because he makes my children quite happy. Oh, you're joining the land of the living. Oh no, back to sleep. Oh.
The hind paw is always the warning. I've noticed if he doesn't like something.
Oh man. Oh, we've already talked about. Gosh.
You got so much loose skin, you skinny thing.
We need to get off. I have things to do on my computer. I have to figure out a way to get Star Citizen to work a little better on it. It's officially at the point where the screen is frozen, smoothie, barely functioning. I can't. It's unplayable. I can't load into the stations in Pyro. It's very sad. I think it's. So I'm going to go for all those YouTube videos I've seen that I've been meaning to get to and try to optimize settings and stuff in my computer. Hopefully get some CPU space up. Oh, yeah, you want to say hi? You want to run away? He's like, oh. You guys missed it. He put his balls up in the air like a weirdo. Yeah, so I got to start configuring what's wrong with my computer before Pyro's live.
And probably won't work on my computer at all.
No,
your
computer would explode.
I know. No, it is fine.
This woman, you're gonna have to get used to just Foxhole working on your computer, and it barely works at that. I need to get this woman a new computer.
Something
I can't afford bread half the time, so it's gonna be a while.
Soon.
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 When are you gonna bake bread again?
Soon. Just like when I make you coffee. Soon.
Great. Well, if you guys don't have any questions about the semester and all that, I'm not 100% sure when I'll start the next semester. I'm leaning towards middle January. It depends on life. There may be a lot going on in middle January, but it's kind of my plan. And yeah.
Keep praying about it.
Yes, please pray for us. Lots of big things happening. But yeah. Thanks for joining me on this semester, guys. Eventually, I do want to get some sort of curriculum physical that you guys could buy if you want them and use for Sunday school courses and whatnot. I think I'll get a few semesters together first before we do that.
And life calm down. after.
Yeah.
Some
I don't
things.
know how many semesters I'll have. I think at least 2 makes sense. The idea being you start after summer and then you go to the next one, and then maybe a summer course concentrating on a specific book of the Bible. Oh, thanks, Skydog. Sometimes you wonder about that, but I know you guys always came back. You were either making fun of me or having a good time or enjoyed something we were saying. But you'll like next semester, because next semester kind of puts a bow on the top of that. We really went really broad stroke over the Bible with this one. We get to focus a little more in the next semester, and we talk a lot about the Gospels and how they connect to the Old Testament and everything. Good stuff. Lots of cosmic slapping. Ah, yes. The harrowing of hell is always fun. It's one of my favorites. The concept that when Jesus died on the cross, he went down into the underworld and stole the keys of hell and slapped around the watchers that are imprisoned underneath the earth and told them that they were screwed.
He did the keys with him.
Yes. Good times. The concept that Jesus went all doomslayer on everybody on his way. Enjoy that. Though, again, as we've brought up, if he is in fact the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, then he was a doomslayer his whole time, baby, because angel of the Lord did some shit. Some shit. Anyway.
I'm smiling like an idiot. I realized something and I can't quite say it yet.
Well,
but soon.
I'm going to get off because I've been all over the place right now. Thanks for showing up. Like I said, I'll keep this going. We'll probably not have one. I don't know when Christmas is. I got to look at the calendar.
Christmas is like next week.
No.
22nd is in 5 days. And then.
No. Whatever. If depending on when Christmas lines up, I might take at least one Monday off or something. But we'll see how it all goes.
7 days. That'll be the 24th. No, wait, that's 10 days from now. Shoot, a weekend.
Confusing me.
No, wait.
We'll at least do something this next coming Monday.
Today's Monday.
No, it's not. It's Tuesday now. For us, anyway. It's still Monday for Skydog, though. Oh, yeah. But, yeah. Yeah. Whoa! Should be fine. I think, actually, we'll do one this next coming Monday. It shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
I might take the... You know what?
Because 7 days from now...
I'm going to shut up.
I don't know.
Never mind. I don't know what's happening.
7 days from now is the 24th. 7 plus...
Point is,
17
I need to get writing the next semester up and getting it all sorted out. So I'm going to have to concentrate on that. So we'll have to do things like movie time and like current event things. If we had more...
next Monday is Christmas Eve.
That's...
17 plus 7 is 24.
Really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be 16 plus 7?
No, 7 plus 7 is 14. Put the...
Hey, look, the computer's here. Let's look at the calendar. Monday is the 23rd, not the 24th. You keep forgetting it's past midnight. I just told you it's Tuesday.
Next Tuesday is the 24th. Never mind.
Yes, so we'll do something on the 23rd because that sounds like fun to me. Probably do something on the 30th. Anyway, I'm going to come up with a more thorough plan when I'm not so tired. So, everybody. Oh, Art Gaines, you just showed up when I'm closing the stream down, man. Come on.
Stay
son.
longer, they say.
Oh. Anyway, you're going to rewatch it, you punk ass. Missed you, though. It's great having you guys on. I will see you next week when we do whatever movie analysis night we do for Satanic Lego. And which, by the way, burns me to my soul because I love Lego. And I think it's one of the best kids toys ever. And the fact that they added satanic stuff to it. Excuse me. Hi, it's a gato. Okay, okay. Anyway, we're signing off because it's late. I got other stuff to do. You guys have been awesome. I'll see you for the Friday video game stream. And of course, Saturday will be the next Grizzly Files.
Watch what he does. And
Yeah, over there. He's done. All right. Signing off. Catch you guys later. Like, subscribe, share. You guys know the drill.
bye bye.